Okay, today we're going to review before we take our quiz. So this is mid-unit review. We're going to review everything we've talked about with fractions so far. And this is going to take up 2 pages. So you're going to want to number page 22 and page 23. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is converting mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're going to label that converting mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay. So we have a couple examples. The first one is 12 and 2/3. When we talked about this, we talked about map. You multiply your whole number to your denominator. So I'm going to put a multiplication sign in front of my denominator. Then you add your numerator. Then place your sum over your denominator. Okay, so we're going to multiply 12 times 3 plus 2. 12 times 3 is 36. 36 plus 2 is 38. So this number right here, this sum, that becomes our numerator. So our new numerator is 38. And your denominator stays the same. See how my denominator over here was 3? My denominator is still 3. So this is our answer. Let's do another example. We have 10 and 7/8. You're going to multiply your denominator, add your numerator. So 10 times 8 plus 7. 10 times 8 is 80 plus 7. That gives me 87. $87 is my new numerator. My denominator stays the same. So our answer is 87/8. Okay. All right, another note I want to add in. I'm going to make a big star. This is a concept we will find on our quiz. To find the reciprocal of, I wrote of twice. I'm going to erase that. Well, maybe. I got my, there we go. Of a mixed number so what we were just looking at, to find the reciprocal of a mixed number, you must, capital M-U-S-T, you must convert it to an improper fraction first. To find the reciprocal of a mixed number, you must convert it to an improper fraction first. So our example, we have 2 1/4. This is a mixed number. It means it has a mixture of a whole number and a fraction. So if I want to find the reciprocal, I first have to convert it to an improper fraction. So just like we did before, you're going to take the whole number times the denominator plus the numerator. So 2 times 4 plus 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 gives us 9. So our improper fraction is 9/4. So I'm going to label that. This is our improper fraction. Now to have the reciprocal, all that means is we're taking our numerator and our denominator and we are flipping them. So we're going to put our denominator as our numerator and our numerator as our denominator. So this is now our reciprocal. This is the reciprocal of 2 1/4. All right, let's move on to multiplying fractions. When we were multiplying fractions, we started out by multiplying a fraction by a fraction. So our example would be 1/6 times 2/5. And we set out some steps. Our first step was to check your diagonals. Step number 2 was to multiply our numerators. Step 3 was to multiply your denominators. And step 4 was to simplify if needed. Now, if you're really good at step 1, you won't have to do step 4 90% of the time. If you are not really good at step 1 and you want to eliminate step 1, that is okay. But you are going to have to be very, very good at A, multiplication, and B, knowing your factors, knowing if you can simplify, if both the numerator and denominator have a common factor that you can divide them both by. So with our example, the first thing I want to do is to check my diagonals. So looking, 1 and 5, do they have a common factor? No. 6 and 2, do they have a common factor? Yes. Both of these numbers can be divided by 2. So I mark those out. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. Step 2 is to multiply my numerators. So straight across, I'm going to multiply 1 times 1 to give me 1. Same thing for step number 3, except now we're at denominators. 3 times 5 gives me 15. Step number 4 is to simplify if needed. I do not need to because 1 and 15 don't have anything in common. So my answer is 1/15. Now, just for an example, for those of you who are not comfortable with checking your diagonals, if I had 1/6 times 2/5 and I skipped step 1, I could. Then I would go straight to step 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Step 3, 6 times 5 is 30. Now at this point, I would need to see that 2 and 30 can both be divided by 2. So that would make my numerator 1 and my denominator 15. We still have the same exact answer as we did before. It is just really whatever you are comfortable with. Okay, let's go on to the next page. We are still multiplying fractions, but this time I want to multiply mixed numbers. So if I have 5 and 1/4 times 9 and 1/3. Let's go over our steps. Step number 1 is to convert to impropers. Step number 2 is to check your diagonals. Now with mixed numbers, our numbers are going to get very, very large. So step number 2, checking your diagonals, will be very, very beneficial, because at the end, those very, very large numbers, sometimes it's hard to see that they have a common factor. So if you can do it beforehand, that will be very, very helpful. Step number 3 is to multiply your numerators. Step number 4 is to multiply your denominators. And step number 5 is to simplify if needed. Okay, so step number 1, convert to improper fractions. I'm going to multiply, then add. Multiply, then add. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21. Our denominator stays the same. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 plus 1 is 28. Our denominator stays the same. Now looking diagonally, I can see that I have some common factors. Both 4 and 28 are divisible by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 28 divided by 4 is 7. Three and 21 also have something in common. They're both divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 21 divided by 3 is 7. So now if I multiply straight across, my numerators, 7 times 7 is 49. My denominators, 1 times 1 is 1. 49 over 1 is 49. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about. Last thing is dividing fractions. When we are dividing fractions, the biggest thing for us to remember is to keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. So if I'm dividing a fraction by a fraction, Let's just say we've got 2/3 divided by 1/2. I want to keep my first fraction, change to multiplication, flip to my reciprocal. So keep 2/3, change to multiplication, flip to my reciprocal. So 2/1. Then I treat it like a multiplication problem. I don't have anything diagonally, so I'm going to multiply straight across. 2 times 2 gives me 4. 1 times 3 gives me 3. This is an improper fraction, so I want to convert it to a mixed number. 3 goes into 4 once. There would be 1 left over, and our denominator stays the same. So our answer is 1 1/3. Okay. Let's try dividing mixed numbers by mixed numbers. So if we have 3 3/4 divided by 1 1/2. My very first step is that I need to convert my mixed numbers into improper fractions. So I'm going to multiply, then add. Multiply, then add. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. So this becomes 15/4 divided by 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. And our denominator stays the same. So 3/2. Then we are going to keep, change, flip. Keep 15/4, change to multiplication, flip to our reciprocal. Then it's a multiplication problem. I want to check my diagonals. I can see that 15 and 3 are both divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 2 and 4 can both be divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Multiply straight across. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 can go into 5 2 times with 1 left over, and our denominator stays the same. So our answer is 2.5. And that's all for our review. Now we're ready to take our quiz.